right, welcome back. Well, yes, that report did go out yesterday, and we're hoping to bring it back to you soon because that is what we're focusing on this morning. That press conference held by the APC calling the PDP presidential candidate to withdraw and apologize to Nigerians, also asking the ICPC, EFCC, basically anti-corruption agencies to go ahead and carry on that investigation and arrest him. So we've got two gentlemen joining us this morning to weigh in on this matter. Daniel Boala, spokesperson, Atiku Okawa Campaign Organization, and sitting right beside him is Ali M. Ali, Deputy Director of Media and Publicity for the APC Presidential Campaign Team. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, well, Mr. Ali, yesterday, I mean, looking at the retinue of the spokespersons of your party who were there, clearly it means that they're taking this in very seriously. But we're trying to understand what they relied on, how serious, how far is the party willing to go on this one, though?
Well, you could see from the account of the spokesman of the campaign that he's prepared to go to the extra mile. He's written a petition in his personal capacity as a concerned citizen, and that the presidential candidate of the PDP has breached a lot of legal codes and therefore unfit to continue to vie for the exalted office of the President of the Federal Republic. So many other instances which we cited in yesterday's press conference, why the PDP presidential candidate is unfit to run for office on accounts of, some of the revelation made by a certain Michael Achimungu, who was his former media aide. He accused him of so many other things, one of which is money laundering, criminal breach of trust, in violation of the penal code, and so many other things. And we tendered evidences, pieces of evidence, at least rendered by the said Michael Achimungu, which has been in the public space, at least in cyberspace, for quite a while, which incidentally a section of the traditional media has somehow ignored. So we thought yesterday, by addressing a world press conference, bringing this to the fore, and then asking the relevant authorities to investigate why the presidential candidate of the PDP should not be brought to book against the background of these damning allegations by his former media aides.
Well, Mr. Bala, we heard some of the spokespersons of the party, of your candidates, also say, well, they don't know him, he's never one of them. But several other people have thought, look, for them to have seen him with pictures, close proximity, access to the family, access to recordings, details of the family, they could deny all they want, but the gentleman certainly does know something about all of what he's talking about.
Well, in politics, politicians are always out about the people, right? So you are likely to find somebody who is very far from the campaign having probably 1,000 pictures with the candidate, because basically that's what politics is all about. You're supposed to be seen eating with people. You're supposed to be seen going to meetings with people. So I do not think that a picture showing him and Atiku is a conclusive proof of relationship or that he's with the family, but whether the content of what he's saying is true or not, and also whether he is a merchant, hired by someone to execute a project. In whichever case, whatever that is transpiring in the public space at the moment is meant to weigh in on the minds of the people, right? But let me tell you my immediate reaction to the quote-unquote press conference. You see, Tinubu and APC, they are suffering from what I call pantophobia. Pantophobia is an extreme anxiety that is occasioned by the fear of something or object. The fear of imminent defeat is what is pushing them to this extent. The fear of the fact that they have a setback in their campaign. The fear of the fact that the Nigerian people have rejected them, and you can see that in all of their rallies, where they will shout Nigeria, and the response they get is say Atiku, in a program organized by them. The fear that some of the members of their parties are not supporting the campaign. In fact, yesterday, when Asiwaju, the vice, had a meeting with all the chairmen, guess what? The Shetima had to tell the people who won the chairman that, look, we are spying on you. We're hearing that some of you are not working for us. That fear, that palpable fear, that anxiety is what is pushing them. The fear that there is inconsistency and discordant tone between the campaign and the government, because they are confused as to what do we project to the Nigerian people. If we are going to project the government, there is no message to project. If we are going to distance ourselves from the government, we might not get his support. Okay. That's why recently they pushed him to campaigns, and they are getting a very negative response. So that is the fear basically pushing them.
Well, we'll get them to respond to that your talk about their fear, quote and unquote. But when you say chances are that you could see people, a merchant or people who are very far from the campaign taking pictures and things like that. But in this case, is that what the case is with this certain Mr. Achimogwu?
Also, so let me tell you. First of all, I don't know him. And I've been with Waziri for about 7 months now. And I've never met the young man. That's case number one. But number two, when somebody, because what they try to project in the press conference is that he's a whistleblower. There are elements you see behind whistleblowing. The event complained of, when did that happen? Around the time when Atiku was a vice president. That's number one. Number two, all of this time that he found whatever he claimed he found, or he discovered whatever he claimed he discovered, he was quiet about it, right? Secondly, when a whistleblower blows the whistle, there is this thing called the objectivity test that they tend to see whether he is acting out in the interest of peace or he's a merchant, like I said. He failed the objectivity test because you will see in all of the videos or whatever audio he releases, he will say, in this campaign, don't vote for him. In this campaign, don't vote for him. In other words, he's politicizing the information he claimed he's releasing in the interest of the public. Thirdly, APC actually hired him and paid him to do that. So by the time he released that...
You have that on good authority.
Yes. By the time he released the information, look at it this way, and it is a very fair thing. So the media are not supposed, just because you see bird flying over your house, you don't say it's a witch. You have to investigate. So unfortunately, that did not resonate with the Nigerian media. So they devised this strategy that, look, we have to have a press conference and we'll throw water and then the Nigerian media will feed on it. And that's why they are happy now that after calling the press conference and they talked about it, the media now is happily carrying it. So this is the nexus. And you watch through their press conference and see the utterances and the relationship and everything connecting to him. It's a conclusive proof that he's a hireling, somebody they have hired to do that. But if you don't mind, I don't mind a conversation around the content of what he said. There's practically nothing in the thing he said.
We'll go that way. But when you say APC hired them, Mr. Ali, is that right?
Well, you know, anytime you listen to Boala, you know he's very persuasive. But you listen to his arguments, you know that the arguments they are intended to mislead. It's a very good sophist. Now, talking about the fear of losing election, clearly it's an argument that how I don't see that, because APC, for example, now is a party that is united. All the governors are working. Only a couple of weeks ago, as usual, in his sophistry, acts in public clear that a couple of governors were working for the APC, for the PDP, I beg your pardon. Till this moment, he failed to list them. Now, fear, I think fear is something that is more palpable and visible with the PDP. They have, up to this moment, a recalcitrant group of 5 governors who have drawn the battle line. I've not seen any reconciliation, and they are going into the election fractured. So between the APC, if you look at the optics, and the PDP, who is suffering from, what's the word he used there, about the fear of something. He used a very high-sounding word to describe it. No, well, the fear, something that, you know. So it's very persuasive, being the lawyer that he is, but you see, we are not in the court of law, we're in the court of public opinion. And in the court of public opinion, for this moment, for the years, his principal has been number 2. His boss, the boss of his own principal, returned a damning verdict.
So the thing is this, Mr. Ali,
has a poor judgment.
Yeah, parliamentary judgment.
Yes.
When these allegations, your party saw them and thought that they were really weighty, and then they called on the relevant agencies to investigate. So one wonders then, your party has been in government, so if they had access to all of these documents, why didn't they prosecute him and go after him?
Well, like with this state at the conference yesterday, that if you did go after him, especially at a time, this thing...
No, not this time.
No, well, this thing just came to the fore. The whistleblower gentleman just came to the fore a couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago.
The government has no idea of all of this information?
Well, it would appear that the government has no idea that someone would return somebody, a trusted aide, would record conversations and then come to the public space and expose and try to stop a man who he thinks once he gets his hand into the public till, he will pillage the resources of our common till. So he's coming to the fore now with these pieces of information.
Yes.
Otherwise... Yeah.
I was going to ask questions along those lines. The very fact that, this administration, the administration of the APC did come to light saying that they were going to, 3 pillars, you said, security, economy, and fighting corruption. And that by now, one would have thought that, part of the fight against corruption will be discovery of this type, that, special purpose vehicles were set up during the Obasanjo government, and that, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar was culpable, or were you restrained by the fact that the current presidential candidate of the PDP was in your party as of 2015?
Well, let's look at the optics. There are instances that you see when you go after someone high up there. We've seen that happen. I'm not saying now this has no basis in law. I'm just saying the reaction will be like it's political witch hunt. After we just stated that. Look, he was part of the group that formed the APC in 2014 when he moved away from the PDP. And after falling apart because he couldn't get what he wanted, to run as a president, to run against the incumbent, the outgoing president, he changed camp as usual, which is in tandem with the political trajectory. Once he can't get what he wants, he switch camp, go somewhere else. So at this point, for example, now, I know that people who would say witch hunt, why not do that in the past? And again, people would ask the same question. Is that, look, maybe because I'm just saying probable. That's the question people would ask.
What's your response to the people?
Our response to the people?
Who asked those questions?
No, I say likely. Likely the people who ask this. They were child political. Don't forget his debut with his former principal when he wanted to fire him as vice president. He went to court, challenged that. And I'm sure this bonus point for my friend.
The question I'm asking, the question I am asking right now is that, he has since left the APC. If you wanted, in 2019, he ran against President Muhammadu Buhari. By that time, some of these allegations should have at least shown up. They didn't show up. You talk about how former President Obasanjo had very negative things to say about him. But by 2019, President Obasanjo was in full support of the candidacy of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. So, all of this coming to light now, some people will say it's medicine after death, that the ship has since sailed.
Well, you're right to say that, because in 2019, there was no certain Achimugu in the fray. There was no certain whistleblower.
What is it about this man which you think, the allegations which he makes carries so much weight or brings revelations to light that were not already in the public knowledge before?
Well, for example, the idea of SPVs, special purpose vehicles, they were not there in 2019. As far as I remember, they were not there. And there were not audio evidence of conversations about certificates, about money that would be used in certain companies in 2019. And in 2022, 2023, these things are coming to the fore.
May I react to that? That's the thing about, let me say this crickum, if I will copy my friend Igodomigodo. One thing about pantophobia is that it beclouds your sense of judgment, right? it makes a brilliant person like my friend here to, to stammer, because pantophobia tend to make you react to something differently. Now, let me just react to a few things he mentioned, beginning with the fact of the letter. And a correction, they did not write the law enforcement to investigate. They wrote commanding the law enforcement to prosecute. Look at the letter, I have it here. They requested that Atiku be prosecuted. So what that means is that they are telling the Nigerian people they have the control over law enforcement. In fact, he said he gave ultimatum of 72 hours. He wrote, he called himself concerned citizen. Meanwhile, he's a serving minister, and secondly, he's a spokesman of the campaign. That's what pantophobia does. It distorts your sense of reasoning. And then thirdly, he mentioned G5. You see, whenever they talk about G5, they fail to mention the orphan 5. You see, for every time you have the G5, you have the orphan 5. And what does that mean? These G5 are governors, sitting governors in states in the federation. APC and Asiwaju has a governorship candidate in these states. So when you romance with them, it means you have abandoned, rejected, and turned away from the governorship candidate in those states, because you're negotiating to take them and all that they requested, thereby leaving those ones. So you left them orphan. So anytime they say G5, remember to ask them, what about the orphan 5? As a matter of fact,
some people will say that, perhaps that might be a stretch, because 4 out of the 5 governors are not coming back. They're not coming back to recontest. Only the governor of Oyo State is seeking a second term. The rest of them, I think 3 of them, are seeking seats in the Senate.
So the answer is simple. Let me
So
answer.
how do you talk about the orphan 5?
Okay, so when they met in London, the conversation was that Asiwaju should concede to their various interests in their state, and they will work for Asiwaju's presidency. Means that if you're a second-term governor, that means you're going, you have a successor. And you're running also for Senate, and you have other National Assembly. Asiwaju should concede to your successor, concede to the Senate seat you're seeking, and concede to the other National Assembly seats. That's so it is about the orphan 5, because that means he is giving up. And that's why when you see people like the governorship candidate in Oyo, it's disillusion. When last have you seen Asiwaju have a sitting with this orphan 5 and talk to them in a manner that will suggest to the public that, look, despite my communication with A, B, and C and the G5 or the Jackson 5, I still have confidence in you, and I'm campaigning for you to win.
There are states you have to argue. I mean, when you look at the states where the so-called G5 or orphan 5 are, there'll be questions as to how many of them have the APC been able to confidently take in the past.
So look at it.
So without, I mean, take for instance, Rivers State. Apart from the fact that former Governor Rotimi Amechi defected to the APC, the state has been traditionally PDP. Is it Abia State or is it Enugu State? So when you talk about the orphan 5, there are big questions as to what exactly were the chances of the APC in that state before the PDP, before this G5 decided to defect or, stand alone, as it were.
If I told on this narrative, it fits to the point that I'm making, that he has given up on them. And that's the orphan 5. Because now there is no chances. That's why I am going for those ones that are traditional states.
Isn't it worse for you? Because those states have traditionally been your states.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So what is the job of a politician? To run and win. Okay, all the traditional states of APC, we are taking the bull by the horn, and we believe we are winning. A politician does not say this traditional, say, I'm giving up on that. And that's one. But let me even tell you, far more important point. What sin has Rotimi Amechi committed that you made Governor Wike look like the Princess of Wales? Tonye Cole, is he not the candidate of APC in Rivers State? You see, in all the 5 states that they are quoting the G5, they have practically rendered the other 5 as orphans. And they are disillusioned. But that's point number 1, because I don't want to sit on it and forget about the other point he raised. Now, they talk about corruption. And you actually cross-examine him. That's when he started stuttering. But let me even stay further. You see, we have documentary evidence of a petition written to EFCC. So if they care about Nigeria, these are the things for them to push. The former MD of Alpha Beta has lodged a petition in EFCC for the investigation of Asiwaju. There have been petitions raised to this fact that Asiwaju during his time in Lagos, he removed Mamora who was a very successful senator and put his wife there. His son took charge of the control of the billboard management. His daughter became the Iyaloja of Lagos. His wife became the supplier of the diesel in Lagos. He turned Alpha Beta, his own company, to become the tax collection machinery of Lagos. That's one. 3 days ago in Kano, Maokwe, the daughter of Asiwaju took 10 million naira cash, dropped it on the floor. It is on video where they took it and they were sharing to people. Can somebody define money laundering for me, please? Now, there is even an investigative journalist at the moment.
Do you have that video?
I will forward it to you. I have it. It's circulated. Raw video. Have you not seen the video, sir? Raw video.
You have the video. You have her on video dropping the money in cash?
The fellow that she visited was speaking on microphone in a language understood by all. And he told them, the daughter of Asiwaju, he even called her His Excellency, and I have no recollection whether she has ever been a governor or wife of a governor. He said, Her Excellency brought 10 million naira cash for me here, but I'm going to take 1 million and 9 million, I will share it. Can they bring the money? They took the Ghana must go there raw in the presence of people. That is called money laundering.
But Mr. Bola, are you relying on a third party to say that was actually 10 million naira?
You could see it.
Who proved it was 10 million naira?
The video showed the money. I'm not talking of perception. Yeah. The video, money.
Anything can happen. There could be paper underneath and money on top. How do
you think that Iyaloja of Lagos, of Lagos will carry paper to that place?
You know your lawyer.
So we are now calling on, EFCC to investigate. And you know, when we ask that the law enforcement should investigate, we use the word investigate because we know what law means. They are saying prosecute. It's a crass ignorance of the law that a senior advocate will call for a meeting and be ordering law enforcement to arrest. You start by investigating, then you now arrest, and then you prosecute.
A bit more.
Yeah. Oh, to react to some of the things he said, well, like you said, you see, Bola, you can't take this away, his passion for misleading the public. I mean, people who watch television see him all the time. Now, the question is this. The issue is former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, the allegations raised against him by someone, a close associate, and the man is caught on tape, at least recorded his voice clearly explaining what SBB was all about. And each census, again, asks to procure a certificate. This is there. These are the questions. Let them defend that.
Just before we go to Lagos, Mr. Bola, you say you don't know this Michael Achimugu, as it were, because, I mean, you've been with your principal for 6-7 months. You don't know about him. But the letter the APC, part of the documents they addressed the press with yesterday, there was one letter of appointment for Atiku Support Organization signed by Muhammad Atiku Abubakar, Chairman, Atiku Support Organization. Right. Have you spoken to Muhammad about this matter?
Who, Mohammed?
If he knows this gentleman.
That's who? Which Mohammed?
Muhammad Atiku Abubakar.
No, I have not.
If he knows
even it was yesterday.
If this was true.
It was even yesterday. I heard of this when Dino was reacting in PoliticsToday. He now said there were 2 letters and that these letters were not issued to him by Atiku but by support organization. And you know, when I started, I made the point. I don't know him, I've never met him. But I made the point that relationship, because I'm close to you, or because I snap picture with you, or because I'm seen in your house, or because I talk with your children, is not a conclusive proof in the corpus juris where we are for a criminal case to be instituted until a crime is found.
Since you haven't spoken to Mohammed on this one, it is possible, probably, that, who knows, he may have something because he had audio of the children on this.
No, I have never, you see, I am repeating it. I'm never in doubt. I am never in doubt of the fact that he could have a relationship with anybody, including Atiku. No, I'm not about that type that will say we don't know him. Personally, as a person, I have never met him. I don't even know him.
But about the audio tape, they also played that recording of the man who, by the way, there was also a certified true copy of the affidavit of facts the Mr. Mike Achimugu is said to have obtained. Have you spoken to your principal about this matter?
No, I did not. In fact, when we first saw the information, we were all in London. We were engaging with development partners on how to recover Nigeria. We were not about these mundane things. We were talking about recovery of Nigeria. We were talking about the 70 trillion debt and how they can partner with us.
Something that has his voice, I mean, what people believe to be his own voice, shouldn't he be concerned enough to tell Nigerians or his supporters who may believe this and say, listen, this, and this about this?
Right.
Would it out of place for him to address that?
So this is how I feel. As a spokesman, I only contact him on something that I feel I have a trouble, I need clarification, or something that I'm confused about, I need a direction. From listening to what this guy published, I don't need to call him to know. You need to ask me for everything the young man said or the communication made and whether the law is breached. And then I'll answer you. Why do I have to call you? I mean, it will bring down my level of understanding of what blackmail is or what the law is. Because the essence of their meeting, and even though some of these directionless quotations there, is to say that crime has been committed. So as a lawyer, do I need to meet Atiku Abubakar to ask him whether from the evidence or what I heard a crime has been committed or not? I don't need to meet him. But I'm happy to answer any question you could ask, or you may ask, about the communication with the law. You see, they are so daft in their reasoning that they don't even know the concept of SPV. I make bold to tell you that America and United Kingdom right now, they establish SPVs. SPVs are established to manage risk. Asiwaju is the SPV of APC. They created him to manage the risk, unfortunately for them.
Well,
unfortunately for them,
let's
he's a bad market.
the issues are not, assassinate characters. But let me bring in my colleagues from Lagos. I think they'll have questions for both of you. Go ahead, please.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. I mean, I like the fact that Mr. Bwala has begun to take on those issues. But let me first of all ask Mr. Ali. Now, my colleague asked you the other time how far you are willing to take this. But speak to the position of Mr. Bwala about the choice of words of your spokespersons, using the word prosecute as opposed to investigate. Is that to say that the APC has already concluded the investigations and consequently given a report to the authorities, the prosecuting authorities, to tell them, look, we've done all the work for you, it's time for you to prosecute?
Well, if I remember very clearly, we are asking the authorities to investigate and eventually do the needful.
Yes, no,
this is what we said at the press conference yesterday, the spokesperson. And I'm sure that being a senior advocate of Nigeria, he is not mindless of his diction. He will not be doing things on the spur of the moment to use high-sounding expression to make a point. I'm absolutely certain of that, to investigate and then eventually do the needful. So, and this is why he wrote to the relevant authorities to do the needful. If it were just to assume that we going to just prosecute, direct the authorities, then where is the law? And it's not even feasible. We're very mindful of the legal processes involved in this. So that is not the case.
Maybe Mr. Bwala got it wrong. Is that what you're saying? That APC is calling for arrest, investigation, and prosecution, and not just prosecution. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
This is my point.
All right. Well, Mr. Bwala, if you want to quickly react to that one.
Yes, sir. Now, first of all, what they said in the press conference, and the video is there, you can play it if you want, is that they asked for the immediate arrest and prosecution of Atiku. They did not say investigate. The video, you have it. Let me finish.
Yes, I know. It's in line with what you're saying. You said arrest and prosecution. Isn't there an interrogation before the prosecution?
Even interrogation is not consistent with the law. Interrogation means you have reached the point where you are bringing the person now to answer question. Investigate means to carry out independent verification of the document. They want the law enforcement to, and let me finish, to prosecute on the basis of a paper. And now let me tell you something. What pantophobia does
I am asking you if you skip the word interrogation.
I just responded to you as interrogation and investigation.
No, you did not respond to me. I'm asking you more specifically.
Right.
if you did not miss the word, because you've talked about arrest and prosecution.
Right.
Did you miss the word interrogation?
Okay. If you permit me, I'll answer. Can I answer?
By all means.
Okay, so listen. Arrest means when you grab the
I know what
let me
arrest
so
means.
there's no way you can understand without me answering
knows
the
what
question.
Arrest means. I'm asking you.
No, you don't know.
There are three. Just a moment.
No, you don't know. I submit you don't know what arrest means.
Mr. Bwala, just a moment. You have three words: arrest, interrogation, and prosecution. You've been speaking about arrest and prosecution. Are you deliberately missing the word interrogation? That's the question I'm asking you.
And I want to answer, but you don't want me to answer.
It's a yes or no.
No, it's not. It's not a yes or no. It has to be answered. Arrest is a connotation of picking the person wherever he is and interrogating him. You are not practicing law. I'm telling you what we practice. Arrest connotes interrogation. That's why I use them as one word. But investigation is the primary rule of every law enforcement before you take up any action. That is what distinguishes between persecution and prosecution. Investigation is the difference between persecution and prosecution. And let me tell you from their letter, this letter is what was served. So forget about what they said at the press conference. What they gave out to the law enforcement, which there is an acknowledged copy here, is what the law enforcement would act on it. You could not have asked the law enforcement to investigate when you are giving them 72 hours. 72, no investigation anywhere in the world that is determined before it starts. Even in America, there could be a gunshot here, a gunfight here. They will say we're investigating. Once we're through with the investigation, we will let you know. And they don't say we're investigating tomorrow by 5 p.m. We'll come up with answers.
So, Mr.
Because
Bwala,
you don't know where the investigation would lead. But when you give 72 hours within which somebody should finish whatever is doing the interrogation and the prosecution, there is nothing as investigation here. So again, I said again, Malkwe, the word arrest is a connotation of taking the person and interrogating, but it's different from the word investigation. Investigation starts from when you submit this document. When they take it, they will now start going to the archives to look at the activities of Atiku, to look at every claim that is made, which includes database information.
Let me ask you something very quickly. Is interrogation a part of investigation?
Is interrogation
a part of investigation?
Yes, it is.
I think you've answered my question. My colleague in Lagos.
No, I've answered it before you asked.
My colleague in Lagos is still asking you.
But you will not distort him from asking the question.
He is still asking.
Well, thank you very much, Malkwe, for that follow-up. So, Mr. Bwala, now you wanted to speak to the issues raised earlier. Now, if special purpose vehicles, as you have said, are within the purview of the law, what law empowers any government to use SPVs?
What law empowers? There is no specific law that says government will establish SPVs, because SPVs are acts within the premise of business.
Okay.
And SPV is legal and constitutional.
So that's the question I'm asking. If you say it's constitutional, it's legal, and then you say there is no law, I'm a little confused. You know, I'm not a lawyer. So what law empowers any government, public official, to set up an SPV for whatever purpose?
So I am saying there is no specific law that says government will establish SPV. SPV is a concept in corporate governance. It is a business concept. It is the activities of corporation, businesses, and entities that set up this separate entity SPVs to manage risk. So there is no specific law. So within the premise of corporate governance, SPV is lawful, except and unless where you can show that the SPV was carried out illegally or that the SPV actually was established to perform an illegal activities. So
you are essentially saying then that your principal has not done anything against the nation. The corruption allegations are not true. And that what he said in that audio, which I believe you must have listened to, that one shouldn't be engaged in open corruption. So one could then infer that he is talking about a closed or covert corruption. Is that what do you make of that?
So yeah, thank you. This is what confused the blackmailer and those who are sponsoring him, because in the audio, Atiku used the word, this is not open corruption. To them, Atiku is the constitution. You see, Atiku is not a lawyer. He may have used certain words that do not have implications in law or does not have culpability in law. Now, he has not, in that communication, committed any breach of law or that he has committed what we call a legal sin. In fact, in the same communication, if you recall, Atiku said that this was once reported to EFCC and that EFCC investigated it and did not find any wrongdoing. So what these people would have done, if not for pantophobia, will be to write EFCC and say, recall, this is the evidence, but recall investigation you've done in respect of this. We ask that you revisit it again because of A, B, and C. But pantophobia distorts your reasoning, and it makes a senior advocate behaves like a first-year law student. Otherwise, SPV, let them come and tell the world whether SPV is lawful, legal, or that SPV is not legal.
Mr. Ali, let me come to you now. I'd like to follow up on some of your commentary, particularly in response to Malquest's question. You rightly said yourself that people would ask, why now? I don't think that you've answered it satisfactorily. Why is this call for the probe, the prosecution of former Vice President, why is it coming now?
Because we want Nigerians to have a better deal. We want someone who would be protective of the common till. We don't want someone who would have him and his family members pillaging the common till. And from the account of the whistleblower, you could, I mean, if you listen to some of the audio release, one of his kids actually said, look, the only reason, one of the daughters, I think the daughter was saying, the only reason why they want their father to serve is for some of them to have the opportunity to pillage our common till. And I think it's important, it's a patriotic duty.
Mr. Ali, the times your party... The times your party wants Nigerians to have a common deal may be selective, because I refer yet again to 2018. That was when the APC was calling for the anti-graft agencies to look into corruption allegations against the former vice president. And the former vice president had at a time been a member of your party. So why didn't the party seek at that time that, it should be investigated over the myriad of corruption allegations that have been leveled against him in the past?
Well, like I said earlier, in 2019, there was no Achimugu. There were no audio recordings of the former vice president explaining the function of special purpose vehicles. There was no audio of his son actually explaining why they wanted their father to be president in 2018. In 2018, he wasn't certainly a president.
Mr. Ali, in 2018, the EFCC report on financial profligacy against the former vice president was still available at the time. And that's what I'm quoting, that your party sought to be reopened against him at the time. Mr. Ali?
Well,
go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Ali.
Well, like I said, the position, yeah, the position is that in 2018 and 2023, 5-year gap. In 2018, like I said, Achimugu wasn't on the scene. He was not on the scene, and there were no fresh allegations.
The EFCC report quoting financial profligacy over the alleged mismanagement of PTDF funds. There was that report of financial profligacy against the former vice president at the time, and that was what your party was quoting, seeking investigation over. And at that time, he was the presidential candidate of the PDP.
But you did listen to the audio recording that he was investigated by the EFCC and they returned a clean bill, according to him, because they were able to cover their track using the SPVs. And that's why he managed to escape, the Inquisition at the time.
So should Nigerians vote for a party that is selective on its calls for, for investigation into financial misappropriation, and trust a party that would rather not follow up, that lacks the political will, to pursue corruption allegations successfully until either a guilty verdict or not guilty verdict is established? Mr. Ali, did you hear my question?
I missed that last part.
Okay, I'll take it again. Should Nigerians...
I missed that last part.
Should Nigerians entrust a mandate with a party that is that lacks the political will, so to speak, to pursue corruption allegations successfully until either a guilty verdict or a not guilty verdict is established?
Well, the APC has been doing that, trying to bring to book people who have been found wanting. The Accountant General is an example. So the APC cannot be said to be unwilling to investigate and to prosecute elements. Don't forget the APC actually jailed a couple of people who are found to have mismanaged the common till. One or two governors went to jail for that. So the APC can be said to be selective in enforcing the law once you are found culpable.
But it would rather, are there, sacred cows?
So there's not really selective.
Are there sacred cows in the anti-corruption fight of the All Progressives Congress?
Certainly not. I can't say there are sacred cows. There can be sacred cows.
Let me come to you now, Mr. Bwala. Your candidate, as perhaps the most... maybe not successfully investigated, but he always seems to be mentioned where corruption allegations are concerned. Either it's the Siemens bribery scandal, or it's the Jefferson scandal, or it's the EFCC report on financial profligacy with PTDF funds. Don't you think that this is quite some baggage for a presidential candidate? Hence, Nigerians should, be circumspect in their choice.
No, I don't think so, because in our corpus juris, in our jurisdiction here, guilt is established by court. And number two, law enforcement, they do investigation. If they find credible evidence against you, they will charge you to court and they will prosecute you. And upon conviction, then that verdict will be placed on you. Now, because politicians are vulnerable in the sense that anytime you want to run for office, that's when every record about you will come out. Sometimes you find a mixture of facts, fiction, and blackmail, like in the case of this blackmailer and his sponsors. So what law enforcement does in the given circumstance is that once an allegation is raised, they will investigate. And when they finish investigating, they will now come up with a finding. If a credible evidence of a crime has been established, they will prosecute. In all of these cases that you mentioned, Atiku Abubakar has been investigated. In fact, I make bold to say Atiku has been investigated more than any politician in the country, because he is, beside Buhari, the longest politician who has vied for office over and over. And the law enforcement, like you rightly asked him and he was torturing, is that the law enforcement was governed by them, even with their power to persecute, not prosecute, which they have done in the past. They have not been able to come up with any credible evidence against Atiku. And the case Atiku has always made, there is never any element or issue raised for which there was no investigation. So he was investigation. There's this thing in law we call issue estoppel. When a law enforcement investigates and come up with a finding and say nothing has been established against this person, when you go about talking about it, then it's an expression of pantophobia. In the case of Tinubu, right now in the EFCC, there is a document file for the investigation of Tinubu on the Alpha Beta. The EFCC has not come out to say we have investigated and there is no issue. So they are to ask EFCC, please fast track this thing and prosecute our candidate Tinubu in the interest of the nation, because the spokesman said he is doing that in national interest. Even if he's asked to leave the campaign or to leave the cabinet office, he will leave. But are you surprised that he's saying he's going to court? Was he not the very person that took Tinubu to court and said Tinubu never had certificate, he falsified document, and Tinubu is a 419? Was he not the person that started peddling the idea that Tinubu had Pakistan? So I am not surprised if tomorrow he wakes up with a document and say he's going to sue Buhari. It is in their pattern. But that is what pantophobia does. It distorts your reasoning. It makes you become anxious. You have anxiety to a point where you are pressing the wrong buttons. You are seeing people walking like trees. You are seeing people like animals. And your sense of judgment is completely obliterated. And that is why, like I was saying, that kind of triggered anxiety happens when you sense that defeat is imminent. And that is what is happening. Have you not wondered why they established for the first time in the history of politics in Nigeria to establish a militia of a political party they call Jagaban Army, a militia with uniform for the purposes, who knows? That's why we're calling on the law enforcement to prove that what Keyamo and the group are saying is not true, that they control them. Because he said we are asking the law enforcement to do that and we're giving them 72 hours. If they fail to investigate this Jagaban Army established to maim people and to rig election, then what the Keyamo and the group are saying might be considered by the right-thinking members of the society as true, that they control law enforcement. This is what you see them operating. And you're going to see more of that in the coming days, because pantophobia, usually these are some of the symptoms of pantophobia.
All right, gentlemen, the Labour Party candidate yesterday, Chatterman, said he's going to dismantle the structure of corruption. That this structure that everybody seems to be talking about, it's just corruption, which both of your parties have been running for a while now. Mr. Ali, what do you think about that?
Well, we yet to see the House, and is going to do that. But we welcome that. I think each time people speak about corruption, we yet to see how they're going to walk that talk beyond strengthening the existing.
You mean it's not easy to dismantle corruption?
Well, it's not. What you need to do, perhaps, you can check it. But when you, for example, the Treasury single account, for example, is one way you can check financial corruption. But corruption, like people always argue, comes in several forms. Well, I think it's a lofty goal for him, but it's something that the APC has done in the past, promising to do that, and then managed to, in a way, to check that. But then it has done, yeah.
Okay, briefly, so it's not a bad idea to dismantle corruption?
No, first of all, there are two things. He doesn't even know the concept of structure. The Obasanjo and the churches he's been going and meeting people, he's trying to set up a structure for election. Structure means alliances. So he doesn't even know the meaning of structure. But secondly, the corruption. How can a man that Pandora paper exposed for taking away, for buying assets and dodging the code of conduct law in Nigeria fight corruption? How can a man who says, I wear Marks and Spencer clothes, when Daniel Bola met him...
Has he breached any law in our country?
Yes, the code of conduct says you must declare your asset now.
So why didn't they go after him if he's breached any law?
No, he did not declare that. When Premium Times interviewed him, do you know what he said? He said, I admit to the fact that I did not declare, but I thought that there is nothing like that in law. The reason why I don't even bother as Peter Obi, let me tell you. Peter Obi, in the eyes of the law, is not a candidate, though. As at the time he emerged as a candidate, the party had already submitted the list of registered members. And it's a political party that sponsors a candidate. We don't even bother. He's not a candidate in this election.
Okay, let me ask you quickly, because this your allegations now, they seem to be indicting two groups of people. When you talk about the special purpose vehicle and you talk about the Obasanjo years, they were not set up without the knowledge of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Why is it that your campaign is only going after or asking that the EFCC prosecute or investigate, the current presidential candidate of the PDP, but not even mentioning former President Obasanjo?
I think there is a place we explain that, look, that is the presidential candidate of the PDP, along with his former boss, have questions to answer. And I think that is very clear, that they have questions to answer because of how, especially the SPVs, were used to fund political activity using government resources.
All right, gentlemen, we have to thank both of you.
Sir. No, 1 second, sir.
On the same subject matter?
On the same subject matter. They have been funding their campaign through Central Bank and NNPC.
Do you have any documents?
So that we are going to give the report to EFCC.
All right, we'll see how that goes. Daniel Bola and Ali M. Ali, both spokespersons in different capacities of their parties, the PDP and the APC presidential campaign. team, both parties, APC. So Labour Party will respond to what both of them have said because they insist they will dismantle corruption. So we'll find out from them in just a moment. Stay with us.